We often talk about how the media world is changing, but what if that's not the right word at all? What if it's actually collapsing? We're living through this incredible moment where the old giants, the big names in news and entertainment, are being replaced by something completely new, something that plays by a totally different set of rules. So let's dive in and break down what's really going on here.
Okay, so let's start with this quote right here, because it absolutely nails the core of this whole thing. I mean, it's a pretty radical idea, right? That all the rules we thought governed media for like the last 100 years, what if they're just gone, obsolete? What if it's not about who has the most authority anymore? What if it's just about one simple, brutal thing? Who can get and keep your attention?
All right, so to really get our heads around this, we have to start with one massive foundational idea, and it's this. Authority, the way we used to think about it, it's dead. Just think about it for a second. The old gatekeepers of information, of culture, their power is just gone.
So here's the new rule of the game. It doesn't matter how much prestige you have, or how big your production budget is, or how long your brand has been around. None of that guarantees you an audience anymore. The new, and really the only rule, is brutally simple. Can you get people's attention? If the answer is yes, you win. If it's no, you're basically invisible. Doesn't matter who you are. I mean, just look at how this completely flips everything we thought we knew on its head. We used to think, you needed that high-end production quality, a big fancy institutional name, or super expensive software to make it. That was the key to the kingdom, right? Well, not anymore. Now, none of that guarantees you'll get seen. The only thing that really truly matters, the thing that dictates your reach, is the distribution system itself. In other words, the algorithm. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract theory, right? The numbers, the hard data, they absolutely prove it. So let's follow the data for a bit and see what the new television actually looks like. All right, get a load of this number. 95 minutes. That's how much time the average user spends on TikTok every single day. This isn't some little niche platform we're talking about. That is television-level engagement. I mean, that's the kind of audience retention that TV networks back in their golden age would have absolutely killed for. And the sheer scale is just mind-blowing. We're talking over 1 billion active users every month. But you know what's even crazier than that massive number? It's how the content spreads. A totally brand new account with 0 followers can literally go viral and reach millions of people overnight. All it has to do is hold your attention for just a few seconds. And this chart? Man, this really shows the tipping point. In the US, YouTube now reaches more adults in that key 18 to 49 demographic, the one advertisers crave, than all of the broadcast and cable TV networks combined. Let that sink in. That's the audience everyone wants, and legacy media is just losing. And that brings us to a huge, huge problem for old media. Their audience is aging out. The median age for a viewer on a lot of these networks is now in their late 50s, even 60s. And here's the kicker. That audience isn't being replaced. The younger generations, they're just not there. They're somewhere else entirely. So what's behind this massive disconnect? Well, it really boils down to a fundamental mismatch in philosophy. The old world and the new world are built on completely opposite ideas about how media should be made and, how we consume it. Think about it like this. The old media world was built on scarcity. It was hard to get a broadcast quality camera. It was hard to get access to a TV tower or a printing press. But the world we live in today, it's all about abundance, total abundance. Everyone has a ridiculously powerful camera right in their pocket. Distribution is infinite and it's free. And the tools to edit video are getting easier and faster, literally every single day. And the tools we use, they tell the same story. You look at something like Adobe's software suite. It was designed for professional teams, for Hollywood. It assumes you're planning everything out, aiming for perfection. But the tools that are winning today, things like CapCut and Filmora, they're built for individuals. They're all about speed, about trying things out, and making content that's frankly disposable by design. You make it gets seen, and you move on to the next. So, in this new world of complete abundance, who's the gatekeeper? Who decides what gets seen? Well, it's not some executive in a corner office anymore. It's the algorithm, and it is a swift and totally merciless judge of what's relevant. People throw around this term democratization of media, and this is what it actually looks like. It's not some happy utopian ideal. It's a brutal head-to-head competition on a perfectly level playing field.
A professor, a teenager, and a massive global news network. They all get the exact same amount of screen real estate, and they're all judged by the exact same unforgiving rules.
So how does this judge make its decisions? It's a pretty cold, simple four-step process. First, it tests your content on a small, initial audience. Step 2, it measures everything: how long they watch, if they watch it again, if they share it, all within the first few seconds. Third, based purely on that data, it makes a choice. And then finally, step 4, it either amplifies your content and pushes it out to millions, or it buries it. Gone. Forever. And there's no court of appeals.
And this quote really gets to the core of the algorithm's value system. It couldn't care less how beautiful your video is or how much money you spent making it. The only question it asks is, do people find this relevant? That's why a shaky video shot on a phone that feels raw and authentic and really connects with people will beat a super polished with sterile studio production pretty much every single time. Okay, so with all this in mind, where does that leave the huge media institutions that used to dominate our entire culture? Let's talk about the inevitable outcome of this great inversion. Just look at this chart. The trend is so clear and it is relentless. Year after year after year, the audience for good old-fashioned linear TV just gets smaller and smaller. The very foundation of that old media empire is just crumbling away.
And this really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. The old giants of media, they aren't being overthrown in some epic battle. They're not even really being attacked. They're just being ignored.
So let's just recap. When you put all these pieces together, what you get is what we're calling the Great Inversion. First, traditional authority lost its monopoly on distribution. Then the tools changed, adapting for individuals, not big studios. Then all these individual creators rushed in to fill that attention vacuum. And the whole system, it just moved on. It didn't ask anyone for permission, it just happened. And all of this leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. In a world where attention is the only currency that matters, where the most engaging voice wins, no matter how credible it is, who do you trust? Who do we trust?